Hey guys and gals, thanks for joining me. This is The Vent, episode 3. I'm Christopher Sotelo, and last we left off was ICU, and I'm going to pick up today with the start of rehab at Tier Memorial Hermann, and I'll talk about my phase 1 today. A lot of wild things happened in phase 1. And then we'll pick up, next episode will be phase 2, which was more independence drinking rehab and some different types of stories that I'll get into with that one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this. So the first night that I got into Tier Memorial Hermann, it was a shock. It sucked. It was terrible compared to ICU, where I had nurse attention 24 hours, 7 days a week. There was someone at my call. They were there waiting for me to push a button just to come assist me with anything I could need or want. And once I checked into rehab here, I was no longer a special case, something that the doctors and the nurses really didn't know how to deal with. When I got here at Tier Memorial Hermann, I was just another guy who broke his neck on a floor of maybe 20 or 30 other guys who had broke their necks, and there was no special treatment for me. So I had to say goodbye to my painkiller drip. I had to say goodbye to my anxiety medicine drip. I had to say goodbye to all the sweet things I had gotten accustomed to into dealing with my new living situation as being paralyzed. And as you can imagine, the come down after being on those fairly strong medications, it was rough. And so the first night I was there and I was feeling the withdrawal symptoms of not having the pain medication, not having the anxiety medication, and I was just begging and pleading for the nurses to give me anything that they could give me to get my mind off of the situation that I was in, and they wouldn't. So I bitched and moaned and told my dad how terrible it was, and my dad got all worked up, he kind of got mad. I was talking with the nurses, he actually thought I was in a shitty place too because they weren't treating me special. And it wasn't until after, and you get to look back, that I realized that what they were doing for me was good, but I'm glad I stayed it out and didn't leave like I had wanted to. So after that, I guess worked out a couple of those kinks worked out. I was in rehab, and so I had to start all over. So obviously, when I checked into Tier from ICU, I was still on the ventilator and the trach, so I still couldn't eat, drink, or talk. And this was something that we kind of started working on right away, and I started seeing a speech therapist. And she gave me all sorts of exercises and things to try and do with my throat, to try and make sure that if and when I was ready to swallow something, that it was going to go down the right tube and not end up in my lungs. This was a problem because they had put in when they fused my spinal cord, I have this hardware in my neck now, and I mean the neck's only so big, so they added this titanium fusion box cage, I think is what they call it, a cage, and it kind of pushed forward on all of put pressure on everything in here. So I had to take these tests with it was a live x-ray machine, and it's a huge camera type thing on one side, and then on the other side is it's just like a white wall that it will bounce the radiation through and through, so they could see what's going on through me, and then I could see a TV screen in front of me that was a live feed of what was going on in my throat. And there I could see the hardware, and then they would give me different it was different substances so that I could swallow. It started out with something light like water, and then moved up to something a little more thick like pudding, and then a little more solid objects, and these were tests. So, and I didn't pass the first time, which was so fucking devastating. I was just so hungry and thirsty. But I swallowed and I failed it on the test. And you can only take the test once every 2 or 3 weeks. So I took it, failed it, had to go another 3 weeks of practicing. And I figured it out. I got my swallowing. I passed the swallow test. And first thing I ordered was a big cheeseburger, French fries, ketchup, mustard. I believe I had a soda, and then I had someone bring me some Chick-fil-A. I just had a huge craving for some Chick-fil-A, and I don't know why, but it was delicious, 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 delicious. Still being on the ventilator, I had to work with a respiratory therapist. So let's count this up. I had a speech therapist, I had a respiratory therapist, I had a physical therapist, I had a occupational therapist, I had a regular therapist to try and talk me out of my depression. Going back to the respiratory therapist, I had to do all kinds of tests every day, in and out, breathing into this little apparatus. It looked like a children's toy, but I would breathe into it and a little blue ball would come up, and I would have to hold my breath, exhale at a certain amount. It had to reach some level of the thousands in there. And as I would pass that test, they would give me less time. It's called weaning off of the ventilator. So I would have, every day they would take off 2 hours that I could breathe. So first it was 24 hours a day I was on the ventilator, then it was 22 hours a day, and then it was 20 hours a day, and then it was 18 hours a day, so on and so forth, until I was breathing more for myself than the machine was breathing for me. And that was one of the greatest feats that I had after becoming paralyzed, because being dependent on that machine breathing for you, it's not only just like a physical pain in the ass to have it there, mentally you become really dependent on it. So in my head, I had this irrational fear that, the electricity is going to go out and this machine's going to stop breathing for me. And so I would think, well, once it stops breathing for me, I don't know how to breathe for myself. I don't remember how to breathe for myself. And so I was pretty sure I was going to die as soon as anything went wrong. The tube disconnected. Anything of that matter. It was really, really stressful, and it triggered my anxiety super high. It was something that I was constantly afraid of, constantly worried about. And it didn't help that there were these, they're called techs. They're like non-licensed nurses who come in and do the nurse's dirty work. And by dirty work, I mean flipping me in bed, wiping my ass, what else? Changing my sheets, doing whatever they could to accommodate me that wasn't medically that didn't require a nursing certificate. Sorry if I'm undercutting you nurses. So there was 3 techs. There's these 3 ladies in my room one night, and I've got this tube. It's probably about 10 feet long, running from my neck hole right here to the ventilator machine. And for some reason, they had moved the ventilator to the other side of the room. So I've got this fucking jump rope type thing hanging out of my neck, stretching across the room. And now there's 3 ladies in there trying to get everything figured out, trying to get their stuff finished so they can go home for the night after their shift. Well, one of the ladies tries to take a step over the line, and her foot catches it. So it yanks on my throat, and she overreacts and falls forward with her foot hooked on it, and I'm like, and I freak out. Then the other lady tries to catch her, and by catching her, she steps on the line, so it's on the floor and it's pinched, and I'm not getting the air anymore, and it's still yanking on my throat, and it's so goddamn painful. And as she steps off of it, the other lady tries to get it unhooked off of her shoe, and the third lady is just there like, oh my god, what have we done to this kid? And I'm just like, oh, oh, you're killing me, you're killing me. And so the three of them kind of just made a consensus of like, let's get the fuck out of here. And so they all three left, and I was just in there, and my brother-in-law was with me, and he was pissed. He was livid. He was just telling them, how fucking stupid can you be? You're walking all over my brother's throat. Get out of here, yeah. And I was just more so, I was in pain. I was just kind of looking for some sort of relief. And then another tech, not of the three, comes in there, and she's like, hey, I just want to apologize for them. They're really embarrassed of their actions. And they want you to know it was an accident, and they were really sorry. And I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that. It's okay. I mean, I accept their apology. It was an honest accident, but it fucking hurt. Like, it really hurt. So I mean, I accept their apologies. It just, to this day, it's a funny story to look back on, but it was a shitty couple. I mean, it hurt for a day or two that I was sore in the throat. So, I mean, as of right now, I forgive those ladies. It was an honest accident, but at the time, I don't play jump rope with my goddamn trach line breathing air, please. And so, getting off of that ventilator and not having those literal trip ups and obstacles was really an awesome feat, because once I was off the ventilator, it allowed me to do more strenuous physical therapy. It allowed me to do move more from table to chair, from chair to bed, whatever it was I was gonna do. And so that's just one small facet of the rehab life in phase one still. Another thing that I would like to bring up was how they did my transfers. Okay, so from the beginning, to get me out of bed into a chair, they would use this thing called a Hoyer lift. And with a Hoyer lift, what they do is they put this. It's not a sheet. It's more like a blue tarp type thing. And I'll be laying in bed, and so they'll flip me to one side, tuck it under this side, and flip me to the other side, and pull it up through the other side, so it's completely under me. And it's got these little straps that would come up here and then from under my legs. And then they would take that and hook it to this machine that would lift me up. And I don't know if I've described it well enough, but it looked exactly like those goddamn things you see them picking up dolphins or whales or anything like that at SeaWorld. They put them in there. It even had holes for me to put my little, put my fins through, my flappers. And it was, I remember being in it and being in the air, and just, it felt so degrading. It just felt like I hated it. It made me feel like such a, not even a child. It made me feel like I wasn't a human being. So I swore to myself and to the text that I was no longer using, I called it the Shamu net. I said, get the goddamn Shamu net out of my room. I'm not gonna use it. I'm gonna learn how to transfer with the board. And so I had to work my ass off with a therapist, and it took a lot longer, but I got it down, and I mastered the sliding board transfer, and that was another big feat for me, because I don't know why, I just fucking hated that thing. I just did not want to be Shamu just drifting above the damn, or drifting in the room. Like, I was literally just hanging in a little net. Like, it wasn't fun for me, and it wasn't good. It wasn't ideal. So I'm glad they allowed me to go on and want to learn how to transfer using the board and not have to use that anymore. Yeah, there's that. So while there at Inpatient, first thing they set me up with was a power chair. And now this is a rather big electric wheelchair, and it had an attachment on the back where I could hook my ventilator, which they've made much smaller ventilators since the 5.5, 6 years ago that I was in there. But the ventilator I had it probably stuck out about a foot maybe a foot and a half from the back of my already huge wheelchair. And so this is I don't remember the brand of the wheelchair, but it was a tank. It was a huge tank. It gave me a sense of independence, being able to move around again. But in my head, in my mentality, I kept thinking, I kept going back to this commercial that I had seen, and it's these old people in a hover-round, and they're at the damn Grand Canyon, and she's kind of sitting there and looking in the air, and it's really inspirational. There's a helicopter flying by, and it kind of shows the grand picture of like freedom. But in my head, that's like, you're an old fuck now. You're a crippled guy in a power wheelchair. This is not the life for me. That's what I was thinking. So I was super determined to get into a manual wheelchair from a power chair. But that doesn't happen overnight, and it took a lot of hard work to do so. So I was in this power chair for 2 to 3 months, and the power chair, there's some pretty great stories of the power chair. I am trying to figure out my levels of independence and wanting to do things on my own again, and I've got my power chair set up, and a weekend comes by and I don't have any visitors this weekend. It's boring as hell in the room. So it's me and my roommate Ken. Ken is an older gentleman. I believe he was 56 at the time of his injury. He broke his neck as well. He was a little bit higher up, so he couldn't move his arms very well. He was just barely getting function back in his arms. And they had him set up with a power chair as well. So Ken and I were bored. We're in the hospital room, and we say, you know what? Let's try to get out of here. Let's get outside. Let's get some fresh air. And we weren't exactly allowed to do this because without supervision or whatever. But I was a grown-ass man. Ken was twice as old as me. He was a grown-ass man. So we decided we're doing this. Fuck him. So I was better at maneuvering in my power chair than Ken was, so I was a trailblazer. And we didn't want to get busted, so we decided to go and sneak around to the freight elevators, which were around the backside of the nurse's station was over here, so we could go around the nurse's station and go to the freight elevators. And so I was leading the way, and I go and I was able to push the button to open the elevator doors, and I roll right in. And so I roll in and I do my thing to turn around, and then I see Ken, and he's just kind of going side to side, just kind of jogging side to side to get in the elevator, and the door kind of closes on him and then opens and closes, and I'm like, shit, Ken, get in, come on, dude. And so Ken barely makes it in and turns his chair, and then the doors close. And now Ken's locked in, so he's blocking the elevator doors and he's blocking the elevator buttons. And so I'm in there just trying to, like, I could reach the button to go to a floor, but I could not get around Ken to go outside of the elevator. So Ken's right there blocking it all, and I was just able to maneuver barely so I could go and push the button of the floor that we wanted to go to, which was obviously 1. So we push it, and we got there, the door's open. I'm like, Ken, back it up, get out of the way. Ken's like, I can't go. I'm not going anywhere, man. It's not moving. And I'm like, shit, Ken, get out of my way so I can get out. The door's open, the door's closed. The elevator goes up, back to the top, and I'm like, God damn it, trying to push the button again. Door's open on the top, door's closed. We go down, and I'm like, Jesus, Ken, get out of my way! Get out of my way so I can at least get out of here and get someone to come help you move this chair. Ken can't figure out his wheelchair. He can't move it for shit. And so I'm trying to reach the buttons, trying to at least keep the elevator moving, so maybe at some point somebody's gonna use the freight elevator. So finally I was able to move Ken's joystick so he could scoot forward. And the doors opened on some floor. It wasn't any floor we wanted to get off on, but as soon as I saw that opening, I took it. And then I look behind me, and the doors close, and I see Ken, and I look back, and I'm like, sorry, man, I'll come back with help, dude. I'll promise I won't leave you hanging. And so I rolled away and went up to the front desk at whichever floor I was on, and I was like, "Hey, I've got a buddy, Ken. He's stuck in the freight elevator. He's been riding up and down. If you could please go help get him back to room 508, I'd appreciate it." And I'm pretty sure he'd appreciate it. And so that was a way to learn my lesson on my limits, I guess, on trying to break free without letting anybody know. Nearing the end of my phase 1 at Tier, I was working on the transition from power chair to manual chair. I wasn't independent to move my manual chair on my own very well. I could go short distances in the hallway. But what they do at Tier is they structure it as you've got a phase 1, you go home for a month, and you live at home for a month, and you learn what you want to learn how to do in rehab. So, for instance, I would come home and look at the obstacles that I'm going to be facing once I'm done completely, and then go back and say, okay, I'm gonna need to learn how to make a transfer from here. I'm gonna need to learn how to climb hills in my chair. I'm gonna need to learn how, just the whole gamut of things. And so with that, after my phase 1, they set me up with a loaner chair to come home with, and they set me up with a loaner power chair to come home with. And when I came home, that's when the depression really sat in, because you return to a place. Well, I mean, I had spent the last couple of months in a foreign place. You know, I'm in the hospital, and it's just it's not home. You're longing for a place to call your own, or a place that feels comforting and that you can just relax in, especially since you've got this shitty situation on your shoulders, and you don't get that feeling while you're in the hospital. And so all you're thinking of is, I can't wait to go home. I can't wait to get home. I can't wait to get back to life. Like I want that so bad. And I was so eager for it. Phase 1 ended. I came home, and it fucking sucked so bad. It was so depressing to come back to the house that I knew as my home, that I grew up in as a child, but it was not the same. The house and everything itself was the same, but I was not the same, and I was never going to be the same. I mean, I roll in the house, and the first thing I see is the stairs to get up to my old bedroom. And, you know, that itself is like, it kills you on the inside. And then the room they set me up is the old dining room, and it had windows that opened to the front, and I could see my little brother and all the kids in the street skateboarding and riding bikes and just doing all the things that I used to do on a daily basis. And all I could do was sit in this room and just feel shitty for myself, and just think of how bad I fucked up, and how I put myself in this situation, and how I can't do anything for myself. I can't take a piss by myself. I can't take a shit by myself. I can't eat by myself. I couldn't do anything by myself. I couldn't go to bed by myself. I couldn't get out of bed by myself. And so it was a harsh realization of what life was going to be. But it also stood for a great motivation for me to want to get back into rehab and to strive to do as much as I could in phase 2. I came up with so many things that I wanted to do in phase 2. Because of that depression, like I knew what got me down, and I knew that if I could do those things for myself, that I wouldn't be down about it anymore. So if I could go back to rehab and learn how to, I'm not going to ride a bike again, I'm not going to skateboard again, but if I could learn how to get myself in and out of bed by myself, if I could learn how to go and get a drink out of the fridge by myself, if I could learn how to go and take a piss by myself, I would feel so much better about my life and about myself, just because I can do that. And I wouldn't have this thing just hanging over my head telling me how shitty you've made it for yourself. Instead, I could have something say, well, look how much better you've made it for yourself as compared to how you were a month ago. And so that's the state of mind I got into and got ready for, going back into phase 2 without a neck brace, without a ventilator, without any restrictions, so I could go as hard as I wanted to and learn how to do these transfers, learn how to get in my chair, learn how to maneuver my chair, learn how to do as many things as I want. And so that's where I'm going to leave off this episode, so that I can come back in the next episode and tell you guys about phase 2, which was a lot of fun. I had a lot of friends in there that were my age. It was kind of like going to crippled college. You know, I had a roommate who was my age. We were always just cutting up, having a good time. I had roommates, neighbors, a lot of people there who we were all kind of in the shitty situation together, and we made the best of it and just had some really good laughs. And so those are all things I'm going to share with you guys in the next episode. Thanks for holding out and waiting for this one to come out. I promise the next one's not going to take as long as this one took to come. But again, thanks for watching. Comment, like, share, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Thanks for listening. I will see you hopefully within a week. Maybe not, maybe less. But bye-bye.